Hi, before watching subscribe to the channel and also put a like to promote the channel. Enjoy watching and here we go. Hello there, fellow Redditors. I'm Officer John Mitchell. I've been patrolling the streets for years, dealing with the usual stuff: rowdy neighbors, stray animals, and the occasional domestic dispute. But tonight, I want to share something with you that defies explanation, a night that still sends shivers down my spine. It all started on a seemingly routine night patrol in Eldridge Falls, a small town with a dark secret. I got a call about a disturbance near the outskirts, close to the long-forgotten Eldridge Asylum. Now, you might have heard the rumors about that place, the tales passed down through generations. They say the asylum is haunted by the tormented souls of its past, and folks around here avoid it like the plague. But duty called, and I found myself standing at its rusted gates, hesitating as they groaned open. The fog settled in, thick and oppressive, as if the very air held the weight of the asylum's grim history. I pressed on, my flashlight cutting through the darkness like a feeble beacon. The inside was a maze of decaying hallways, shattered windows, and the remnants of a bygone era. As I navigated the disorienting corridors, a distant whisper echoed through the desolate halls. I thought it was the wind or maybe just my imagination, but the whispers persisted, growing louder and more distinct. My radio crackled with a call for assistance, distracting me for a moment. When I turned back, the surroundings had shifted. The air felt thicker, the temperature dropped, and the flickering light from my flashlight played tricks on my senses. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. Deeper into the asylum I went, the whispers forming indistinct words that reverberated through the desolation. The flickering lights seemed to respond to unseen voices, casting distorted shadows that danced on the peeling wallpaper. A feeling of being watched consumed me. In the heart of the asylum, I stumbled upon a forgotten room. An ancient-looking door stood ajar, and as I pushed it open, I entered a room frozen in time. Dusty beds lined the walls, and faded patient records lay scattered on the floor. In the center stood an old phonograph, its needle scratching against a vinyl record that hadn't played in decades. As I read the patient records, the room transformed. Apparitions of tormented souls materialized, their hollow eyes locking onto me. The whispers crescendoed into anguished wails, and an otherworldly presence enveloped me. I fled the room, stumbling through the labyrinthine corridors. The asylum resisted my escape, its malevolent force attempting to ensnare me within its dark history. Finally, I burst out into the cold night air, the asylum standing eerily silent behind me. Back at the police station, I hesitated to share my encounter with my colleagues. The whispers persisted, haunting my dreams and echoing in my mind. So, here I am, sharing my tale with you, fellow Redditors. Some may call it an elaborate story, while others might have experienced something similar near the Eldridge Asylum. As you read this, remember, sometimes, reality blurs, and the past reaches out to touch the present. The thin veil between the natural and supernatural might be more fragile than we think. Stay safe out there, and never underestimate the chilling secrets hidden in the shadows. It all started when I stumbled upon an old journal at a garage sale in the outskirts of a seemingly forgotten village named Hollowbrook. The journal belonged to a resident named Emily Hargraves, and it chronicled the eerie events that unfolded in the village decades ago. Intrigued, I delved into the pages, uncovering a chilling story that would haunt my dreams. According to Emily's entries, the village was peaceful until one fateful night when a dense fog crept in, shrouding Hollowbrook in an unnatural darkness. Curiosity got the better of the villagers, including Emily, who gathered at the town square to investigate. The air was thick with tension as they ventured into the inky blackness, unaware of the horrors that awaited them. As I read through the journal, Emily vividly described the unsettling sensation of being watched. Shadows danced on the edges of their vision, and the village seemed to come alive with malevolent whispers. The fog twisted and contorted, taking on ghastly shapes that slithered through the air. It was as if the very atmosphere had turned against them. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air. Panic erupted as villagers scattered, desperately trying to find the source of the distress. Emily's entries became frantic, recounting how people vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only echoes of their terrified cries. In the midst of the chaos, Emily stumbled upon a mysterious figure cloaked in shadows. The figure beckoned her to follow, and against her better judgment, she trailed after it. The fog thickened, swallowing the village whole. Buildings morphed into grotesque shapes, and the once familiar streets twisted into a nightmarish maze. As I read Emily's words, I couldn't help but feel a chill down my spine. It was as if the very essence of Hollowbrook had become a living nightmare. The journal detailed Emily's encounters with phantoms that seemed to feed on the fear of those lost in the fog. Each page was a descent into madness, and I found myself compelled to uncover the truth behind this supernatural phenomenon. Emily's entries became increasingly desperate as she described the ever-shifting landscape of the village. The fog whispered promises of escape and twisted reality, leading her deeper into a maze that defied logic. She encountered spectral apparitions, faceless entities that seemed to feed on the fear and despair of the lost souls. In her final entry, Emily wrote of reaching the heart of the village, a place where reality warped and time seemed to stand still. The shadows converged, forming a vortex that threatened to consume her. And then, with a bone-chilling wail, Emily vanished from the pages of the journal, leaving behind an ominous silence. Intrigued and unnerved, I decided to visit Hollowbrook, hoping to uncover the truth behind Emily's disappearance. The village, now a mere shadow of its former self, stood in eerie silence. As I wandered through the deserted streets, the fog thickened, and the air became charged with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, I heard a faint whisper, the echo of Emily's voice calling out from the darkness. The shadows danced, and the village seemed to come alive with the ghosts of its tormented past. Panic set in as I realized I might become the next victim of the vanishing village. Fueled by fear and desperation, I sprinted through the twisting streets, the fog enveloping me like a suffocating shroud. The whispers grew louder, taunting me with promises of escape and eternal torment. I stumbled upon the town square, where the figures of lost villagers lingered, their vacant eyes locking onto mine. In that moment, I understood the true horror of Hollowbrook. The village had become a gateway to a realm beyond, where the lost souls were trapped in a perpetual nightmare. The fog, a malevolent force feeding on their fear, ensnared anyone who dared to tread its cursed streets. As I write this, the fog outside my window seems to thicken, and the air is charged with an unsettling energy. I can't shake the feeling of being watched, and the echoes of Emily's chilling tale linger in my mind. Hollowbrook may be a vanishing village, but its horrors are very much alive, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to become entangled in its nightmarish grip. Stay safe out there, Redditors, and beware the fog that hides the secrets of the vanishing village. The shadows may be closer than you think. You won't believe the horror I've stumbled upon in the abandoned Ravenwood Manor. It all started when I received an anonymous message on Reddit, urging me to investigate the mysterious happenings in this long-forgotten estate. Intrigued and fueled by the promise of unraveling a chilling mystery, I embarked on a journey that would haunt my dreams. Ravenwood Manor loomed in the distance as I approached, its crumbling facade obscured by gnarled trees and the encroaching fog. Armed with a flashlight and my trusty camera, I entered the manor through a creaking door that seemed to protest my intrusion. Little did I know that every step I took would lead me deeper into a nightmare. The air inside was heavy with the scent of decay, and the silence was suffocating. As I navigated the dimly lit hallways, the echoes of my footsteps reverberated, creating an eerie symphony. The walls, adorned with faded wallpaper and portraits of long-forgotten residents, seemed to watch my every move. My investigation took a sinister turn when I discovered a hidden passage behind a bookshelf. The passage led to a forgotten chamber, its walls adorned with occult symbols and eerie paintings depicting scenes of unspeakable horror. It was as if the room itself held the dark secrets of Ravenwood Manor. As I delved deeper, the temperature plummeted, and the air became charged with an otherworldly energy. Whispers, indistinct at first, surrounded me, and the flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the chamber walls. I began to question my sanity as the very fabric of reality seemed to warp around me. Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed through the chamber, sending a shockwave of fear down my spine. I rushed toward the source, my flashlight flickering in the darkness. The scream led me to a long-forgotten library, where tattered books lined the shelves and dust motes danced in the beam of my flashlight. In the center of the room, I discovered an old phonograph, its needle scratching against a vinyl record that played a haunting melody. The walls seemed to close in as ghostly apparitions materialized, their hollow eyes fixated on me. The temperature dropped further, and the very air seemed to freeze as I became ensnared in the spectral performance. As the apparitions reached out, their ethereal fingers grazing my skin, I felt an otherworldly force tugging at my senses. Reality fractured, and the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred. The library transformed into a nightmarish realm where time stood still, and the echoes of the past reverberated with unimaginable intensity. In a desperate attempt to escape the supernatural grip, I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. The library walls seemed to undulate, distorting reality in a surreal dance. Shadows contorted, and the haunting melody intensified, driving me to the brink of madness. With every step, the whispers grew louder, urging me to uncover the secrets of Ravenwood Manor. The apparitions guided me through winding corridors, their ghostly presence a constant reminder of the unspeakable horrors that had unfolded within these walls. The manor itself seemed alive, a malevolent entity that fed on the fear and despair of those who dared to trespass. The climax approached as the whispers reached a fever pitch. I found myself standing before a grandiose door, its ancient wood groaning in protest as I pushed it open. Beyond lay a chamber enveloped in a blinding light, a surreal juxtaposition to the darkness that had consumed Ravenwood Manor. As I stepped into the chamber, the whispers ceased, and a bone-chilling silence fell. Before me stood the apparitions, their ethereal forms fading into the brilliance of the light. In that moment, I realized that Ravenwood Manor held a portal between the living and the dead, and I had unwittingly become a part of the supernatural tapestry that bound them together. As I write this, I find myself haunted by the echoes of Ravenwood Manor, the spectral whispers lingering in the recesses of my mind. The anonymous message that led me to this nightmare remains a mystery, a cryptic invitation to a realm where the line between reality and the supernatural is forever blurred. Stay vigilant, No Sleep community, for the darkness that resides within Ravenwood Manor may one day beckon to you. The horrors I've witnessed transcend the ordinary, and the malevolent force that lurks within those crumbling walls hungers for the fear of the living. Enter at your own risk, and beware the spectral whispers that may lead you into the abyss. I've got a tale that will send shivers down your spine, a story that started with an old journal I stumbled upon in a dusty antique shop. This isn't your average haunted house tale, it's about a forgotten tunnel beneath the city, a place where the echoes of the past linger in the shadows. The journal belonged to a construction worker named Thomas Harding, and its pages told a chilling story about the abandoned tunnels beneath our very feet. Intrigued and armed with nothing but curiosity, I decided to delve into the murky depths below the city, hoping to uncover the mysteries that had long been buried. As I descended through a hidden entrance in the basement of an old building, the air grew heavy and damp. The flickering light of my flashlight danced on the cold, wet walls of the tunnel. It wasn't long before I realized that the eerie silence was broken only by the distant drip of water echoing through the subterranean darkness. The journal had described a network of tunnels, forgotten by time and sealed off by layers of concrete and debris. As I ventured deeper, the passages twisted and turned, creating a disorienting labyrinth that seemed to swallow the very essence of sound. The echoes of my footsteps took on an ominous resonance, and the oppressive darkness pressed in from all sides. My flashlight revealed symbols on the walls, cryptic markings left by those who had ventured here before me. Thomas Harding's notes spoke of strange occurrences and encounters with shadowy figures in the abyss. The tunnel seemed alive, resonating with an unseen force that fueled my unease. In the dim light, I reached a cavernous chamber that echoed with a haunting melody, a distant, melancholic tune that reverberated through the underground expanse. It was as if the very walls of the tunnel sang a mournful song of the forgotten past. I followed the sound, unable to resist the pull of the mysterious melody. As the melody intensified, so did the shadows. I glimpsed fleeting movements at the edge of my vision, like ethereal figures darting through the darkness. Panic set in, and my heart raced as I quickened my pace. The walls seemed to close in, threatening to engulf me in the suffocating embrace of the forgotten tunnel. Suddenly, the cavern opened into a vast chamber bathed in an otherworldly glow. The source of the light was an ancient-looking lantern, suspended from the ceiling by rusted chains. The cavern's walls were adorned with phosphorescent fungi, casting an eerie illumination on the subterranean scene. In the center of the chamber stood an altar, adorned with faded symbols and surrounded by tattered remains of offerings. Thomas Harding's journal had hinted at a cult that once thrived in these forgotten depths, conducting rituals that defied explanation. The air hummed with an otherworldly energy, and the shadows seemed to gather around the altar like spectral witnesses. I hesitated, my instincts warning me to turn back, but the pull of the unknown proved too strong. As I approached the altar, the melody reached its crescendo, and the cavern erupted with whispers, indistinct voices that seemed to emanate from the very walls. The shadows coalesced into phantom figures, their hollow eyes locked onto me. In a desperate attempt to escape the supernatural clutches of the forgotten tunnel, I retraced my steps, the whispers growing louder with each passing moment. The ethereal figures pursued, their movements synchronized with the haunting melody that resonated through the labyrinthine passages. As I sprinted through the twisting tunnels, the air became charged with an otherworldly force, and the walls seemed to pulse with an ominous rhythm. The labyrinth fought against my escape, shifting and contorting in an attempt to ensnare me within its subterranean grip. Finally, I emerged into the basement of the building, gasping for breath as I slammed the hidden entrance shut behind me. The echoes of the forgotten tunnel faded, and the oppressive darkness lifted. I found myself standing in the dusty basement, my heart still pounding, the ancient journal clutched in my trembling hands. As I share this tale with you, fellow Redditors, I can't shake the feeling that the forgotten tunnel still calls out from beneath the city. The echoes of the past linger in its subterranean depths, waiting for the curious and the brave to descend into the unknown. Beware, for the forgotten tunnel may hold secrets that defy explanation, and once you enter, you might find yourself trapped in a nightmare that refuses to let go. Stay vigilant, and may your curiosity be tempered with caution. I never thought I'd be sharing this, but something happened to me last night and I need your thoughts on it. I was left alone at home while my family went on a last-minute trip, and what unfolded in the silence of the house has me questioning everything. It all began when the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with an unsettling rhythm. The house, usually filled with the comforting hum of life, became an echo chamber of my own footsteps. I brushed it off as mere solitude anxiety, but little did I know that the night had far more sinister plans. As I settled into the quiet living room, the flickering light from the TV cast an eerie glow. The house seemed to exhale, creaking and groaning with every shift in the wind. I tried to distract myself with mindless shows, attempting to shake off the growing unease that clung to the air like a thick fog. Around midnight, things took a chilling turn. The air became heavy, and a sudden drop in temperature sent shivers down my spine. I heard a soft whisper, barely audible, yet distinct enough to cut through the silence. At first, I blamed it on the wind or my imagination playing tricks on me. But then it happened again, closer this time, as if someone, or something, was standing right behind me. I forced myself to dismiss it, blaming paranoia and the unsettling quiet of the empty house. However, as I made my way to the kitchen for a glass of water, the whispers persisted, now forming indistinct words that seemed to taunt me. I felt a cold breath on the back of my neck, and my heart raced with an inexplicable fear. In the dimly lit hallway, I glimpsed a fleeting shadow, darting from one room to another. Panic set in as I fumbled for the light switch, only to find the hallway plunged into darkness. The whispers grew louder, now forming chilling laughter that seemed to echo through the walls. I decided to confront the source of the disturbance, my flashlight in hand as I navigated the maze of hallways. The temperature dropped further, and the air felt charged with an unseen presence. The house seemed to have a life of its own, as if it harbored secrets I was never meant to uncover. In the master bedroom, I felt an icy hand brush against mine, sending a shockwave of terror through my veins. The whispers coalesced into a voice, a ghostly murmur recounting tales of the house's dark past. I staggered backward, my breath catching as a figure materialized before me, a spectral apparition that seemed trapped between the realms of the living and the dead. Its hollow eyes locked onto mine, conveying a silent plea. The room pulsed with an otherworldly energy as the ghostly figure reached out, its translucent fingers grazing my skin. I felt a surge of emotions, sadness, despair, and an overwhelming sense of loss. I stumbled out of the room, my mind reeling from the encounter. The house, once a haven, now felt like a portal to the unknown. The whispers persisted, the ghostly figure trailing behind me, as if it sought solace in my presence. Now, I'm left grappling with the aftermath of that haunted night. I can't shake the feeling that the ghostly apparition is still lingering, a silent spectator to the secrets buried within the walls. Has anyone else experienced something similar? I'm haunted by the thought that the quiet house holds more than just memories. It harbors a presence that defies explanation. Your insights and advice are more than welcome. Stay safe, no sleep, and beware the silence that conceals the unseen. Buckle up because I've got a bone-chilling tale to share. It all went down last night when my family decided to ditch me for a weekend getaway, leaving me home alone. Little did I know, I was in for a night that would redefine my understanding of the supernatural. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the house transformed into an echo chamber of its own. The usual background noises were replaced with an unsettling stillness that seemed to amplify every creak and groan of the old building. It wasn't long before I felt like I was being watched, the shadows playing tricks on my senses. The night unfolded like any other: Netflix, some snacks, and the flickering glow of the TV. But as the clock ticked past midnight, a thick fog of dread settled in. The air turned icy, and I heard it, a soft, distant whisper, like the haunting melody of a ghostly choir. At first, I dismissed it as the wind, but then it whispered my name. Determined to debunk this eerie occurrence, I wandered through the silent house, my flashlight cutting through the oppressive darkness. The whispers persisted, forming words that sent shivers down my spine. I swear, it was like the very walls were breathing, exhaling secrets that had long been buried. In the hallway, the temperature plummeted, and the whispers grew louder. I felt an invisible presence behind me, a breath on the back of my neck that sent a chill down my spine. My flashlight flickered, casting long, distorted shadows that danced in the gloom. It was as if the house itself had come alive, and I was the unwilling audience to its silent performance. Determined to face whatever lurked in the shadows, I entered the master bedroom. That's when I saw her, a spectral figure with hollow eyes, bathed in an otherworldly glow. She seemed to shimmer between the realms, a ghostly apparition trapped in a loop of despair. The room pulsated with an energy I couldn't comprehend, as if time itself was unraveling. I couldn't move. Her eyes locked onto mine, telling a story of loss, regret, and a pain that transcended the mortal realm. I felt a cold touch on my shoulder, sending an electric shock through my body. The room seemed to close in, the walls weeping with unseen tears. In a moment of panic, I stumbled backward, the ghostly figure lingering in the ethereal mist. The whispers intensified, forming a mournful symphony that echoed through the hallways. I retreated to the safety of the living room, my heart pounding in my chest. As I write this, the house remains silent, but the memories of that night linger. I can't shake the feeling that I was not alone, that a spectral presence shared the solitude with me. If anyone out there has encountered something similar, let me know. The silent house has a story to tell, and I fear I've only scratched the surface of its haunted secrets. Stay vigilant, no sleep, and may your nights be free of unseen whispers in the dark.